Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. I'm going to be showing you the current state of ELMS Learning Network in general. I've been doing a ton of user experience work, Mike and I have, and we've been getting a lot more instructional designers involved in larger communities. So let's see what we're starting to come up with here. So we're going to make a new course. This will be a course about math. This is the renovated CIS distribution. This is a course information system. Let's require a login to get to it. We can create a different type of structural outline, or we can import one we already have. And now let's tell these to go. These are the only required options. Create course. And then I'm gonna actually walk away from this page. But what that did is it kicked off, based on each checkbox, that represents a Drupal site. And so it's going to go and build these Drupal sites in the background. We're going to go and look at some courses that are already done, though. So we're going to go back to home and say, hey, this should be emailed when it's done. And we'll do the course map. If you've seen the past versions of CIS, this interface should look pretty radically different. It's much more a back-end system now. It has a lot of the same displays, but it's lost all of its front-facing presence. There's other systems being created to handle that now. So if I go to, let's say, we'll jump into this graphic novel course I've been building out. You can see from the map it had 4 different systems associated with it. Anytime I click this guy, I can drop into just kind of the sub-tabs and things. We'll see there's 4 services that are created here. So this is kind of getting behind the scenes and more of the guts, some of the things you can do. But let's go to, go back to graphic novel here. And now we're kind of situationally aware. So we've got the snowflake. This is kind of the representation of a course network. And so you see these are the services in my course network. The one that people are most familiar with is going to be the content outline one. That's also referred to as the Move platform. So we've taken it. We're actually, if you notice, we went to a different address, following the same pattern as everything else. So we've got courses dot, and then we've got the course name instead of online. If I open the snowflake here and see this has changed slightly, we've got the current thing I'm working on, which is the content outline, and then we've got these other services we can go to. Because I have elevated privileges, I can also see some of the more administrative interfaces. And so if I need to get back to the CIS because I need to enter some data affiliated with it, maybe populate some sections, I can jump right back there. If I need to go back into the content outline, I can do that. We can jump to the other systems as well. See, we've got some nice Magellan treatments you can use if it detects the correct headings on the page. We've got some in-page navigation here. And so this is the level that I'm on. You'll see a breadcrumb populate. It's the thing we're working on right now to get that breadcrumb to show initially. So we can see I'm in the orientation in the course outline. Now the UX affiliated with this, where things are placed, is still in flux a little bit, but you'll note that I can drill all the way down into, this is effectively an H3 tag, I believe. And so hierarchically, I've got my H3 tags on a page, the title of the page. We've got this highlighted to indicate, hey, you're on page 2 of this part of the lesson. Well, what lesson am I in? I'm in the orientation, and the orientation is in the course outline. If I open the course outline, I can see all the other things we have in here. So you can see we've got one of our courses bootloaded in, so we've got a lot of navigation, right? This is a course set up before we had access to these type of navigational techniques. That slides back into place. Let's say I'm going to use some of the accessibility features, check out speed reader, and so I can have it speed read everything that's on the page below. Crank it up, because I like to read really fast. And so let's slide that away. We've also got these pervasive buttons in addition to the snowflake. We've got me, my profile. We're working on the help and syllabus buttons just going directly to links. We've also got the ability to masquerade right from here, so we call it impersonate. Use chosen different places as well, so I can search for other users if they're in there. You can see that my roles in the system is that I'm an administrator. I'm running on the admin account. I'm currently viewing the course as if it was this master 1, 2, 3, 4 section. As we get other sections, we can throw them in there. They start to populate. You can jump between different sections to show why that's useful. I've also got the settings here. So this is the settings for this system. If we open that up, you see got a bunch of options in here. We can do some search and replace, import a content outline, get XML, edit the instruction outline. So let's jump right to that. It's the outline designer. So this is the outline of the entire course that's stuffed over in that nav area. So if I need to move some things around, we've got this orientation in here. I'm not entirely understanding the logic there. Let's just delete this course content container, which will shift all of the lessons up and out of there. And then what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll delete the orientation one as well. And if we delete the orientation placeholder, in this case, now we've just got lesson 1 orientation sitting there. So the outline designer allows you to kind of drill down into different items. This is a really big content outline, so even working with it locally, it's a little sluggish. And so, see, we can easily drill down on these. I know what I've selected. Click, take this item, and we can shift it around in the outline by dragging it. Edit any of these right from here. Rename them. I could override the title. We've also got tokenized support now in our overridden titles, so I can pull up tokens, global tokens. These are a Drupal connotation, but we've also got some ELMS tokens as well as some custom defined ones that can be generated on the fly. So let's do this value there. Close that. Put it in the title. So we're going to override the title of this lesson 3.3 Rome, Florence, Padua, Pisa. So we're saving that item. We'll jump back to home in the background here. And open this up. You'll see my outline has shifted itself around to account for the fact that I moved everything out of level. The first thing we look at here, let's go, okay, well, it says week 1. That's an auto-generated value, so let's change that to be lesson-based, and then I can actually go around and modify my titles a bit. So we're going to go into the theme. We've got sub-themes for all the different systems going on here. So go to MOOC and Foundation Access. You know what, let's upload a logo to show how to use that property. So they're called lessons in here. We can do auto-numbering. We can apply a name. We can apply none of it at all. I'm going to stick with just the label at the moment. And course outline is not correct. It's lesson outline in this case. It mentions the logo. So let's grab something for our default logo here. Default logo slot. Use Snowflake's dark. There we go. Let's save that. All right. So we've got some banner support built in as well now. And so now I've got this banner that's on the system. You see we've got lesson outline that's been reconfigured. We've also got the same lesson without doing the numerical incrementing at the highest level. I can drill down into lesson 1. It's subtle there. I don't know if you noticed my browser jump. I didn't do that. It does that. So it's attempting to keep me fully in scope of what it is that I'm looking at. Once I get to the highest level, for example, like if I scroll way down the page, it would be more apparent that we could go to lesson 12. You notice it's actually jumped back up the page to keep this in scope, but then when I hit back, I'm taken back down the page. Been really focusing on subtleties and making this a lot more usable. Keeping eye placement as easy as possible to find things. So we can go down to the content there. Let's jump over to communications. Again, with the orientation, I can bounce back up a level. This is a navigational technique. We're still refining this part, but so if there's items underneath this and I'm not on anything, right, then I can actually open this up and see all the pages that are just below. So I can jump straight to policies instead of having to click into orientation when I know what I want. Again, there's multiple ways to get there, so I can go lesson 1. Oh, that's actually that orientation lives in a different content outline actually. So let's go to lesson 3 and topic 4. So you see I went down several levels. I'm on page 4 here. And if I click this page, it will just take me to lesson 3.3. If I click lesson 3, well, I don't know where you'd want to go necessarily, so it displays everything at that level. So I can jump back to, oh, I went into the wrong one, I actually went 3.4, without opening any other additional navigation structures. You see, we're still playing with how this works on mobile, and what the overall usability is with this navigation style, but I can drill down into the one that I'm looking for, which in this case is this topic 4. And so I could have a link and just kind of arrive here and know, just by glancing, what my path on the way back up is. You see we've got some page treatments. We should be getting some more in the near future. Also added in, we cleaned up this menu a bit, so the settings have an additional link over here. There's also the accessibility check that uses the Quail API, so you can crank that on and go, okay, each 2 elements are now to be used for formatting. Well, I'm not using them in that way there, so I should be good. This is required. H3, make sure it's not for formatting. Yeah, those are required readings. They're hierarchically under step 1, so we should be good there. I also might notice this little arrow pops up. Say, jog you back to the top of what you're working on. Let's go to the next page. See, I reached the end of the lesson, and now we don't have any additional arrows there, so kind of trying to contain this bottommost navigation to within the context of the lesson that you're working on. If we open this up, we can hit edit. See, we've got CK editor here via the textbook module. Let's not work on that though. Let's go into these visual identifiers. So we're starting to get into again, situational awareness, context, keeping tabs on where you are. Let's just upload this one for the sake of having one. So if I said, I want this page to have this item, and then what is it? Well, it actually represents an assignment. We're going to align that taxonomy, if you will, more closely with like XAPI statements. I'm very excited about where that's heading. So that replicated the banner there. Woohoo. If I go to this page, though, you can see that it actually has changed the icon to indicate that this is the term that I selected. And go into here, say, all right, it's not on that page, the banner's on that page, but if I go to lesson 3.4, and then we'll apply a banner here, I can actually have it propagate down. So I'll take this snowflakes thing, should probably have some more banners. Upload the snowflakes, and now the snowflakes are on there. Cool. Let's drill down into this random page, though, and I did not set the snowflakes on this page. If I go and edit, there's no snowflakes there. So you can actually set kind of topic level banners that would propagate down. So if you want to visually represent that content, you can. As we go mobile with these, so we're still working on the titles and things. But the slide out nav has been rather well optimized for mobile, as well as the top buttons, as well as you can see that overarching banner really crushes itself down, as well as the mini banner. Scroll down through here, take my course content, next, and go along. So we're putting a lot of efforts into these areas. Something else to note is we're getting into working on the other tools, building out our network, right? That's the whole point of this development methodology. And so some of them we started to build out. Just open these up now. We've got the blogging one, the studio, we've got discussions, we've got an asset management system, and we've got compliance, which currently doesn't do anything other than successfully build. So it's at least something there. It's kind of a placeholder system at the moment. But so if I'm in the blog, right, I've got a similar user experience, so I already know how to use this. My snowflake indicates that I'm on the blogging tool, and I can easily get back to content outline. I can easily impersonate people. I don't need to relearn how to do these things. Settings are then, so there's less settings because these are specific to the application I'm working with. And then from here, we've also got an add menu. So there's an add menu so that if you can interact with and contribute to whatever it is the application is, then there's a button for that at a consistent location that would appear. So we'll add that to Open Studio as well. It's also in the forums and some of the media stuff as well. So if I go to the forums one, you see I've already applied the banner to this one, so I have my consistent banner. Pull out the discussions. Okay, there's just a link to the forum at the moment. This is built on top of Harmony. Let's see, hey, I want to add a new thread. Add a new thread, nothing crazy going on here. Put it in general discussion. See it? Nice, right? Create thread. So we're still working through the UX affiliated with this. Something I really liked about Harmony is that it supplies everything as entities. And so the hope is that because everything in here is a RESTful web service, that we'll be able to tap into those entities in the same way. So we can actually pull the threads, author queries very easily to pull all of the threads from one system into another. So that's about, as far as we've got the discussion system at the moment, it's kind of in line to see additional usability treatments. It's to the state that it is now. Let's go to the media system. So need to implement that path there. So you can see we've got, again, consistent. I know how to use this, but it's a different application. It can have different structure of all the content types and everything under the hood, and we can still talk to it in a seamless fashion. Add, we've got a whole slew of content types in here. Let's see something I can do. So I uploaded a picture. Put this picture in here. I can then generate short code embed codes as well as iframe code if I want to paste it somewhere outside the system. And so you'll notice though, if you read this, we've got tool, Elms Media, item 6, render link field, right? I can copy this. We'll go into our content outline. Edit a page. We'll paste that bad boy in there. Now we've got our image loaded in line. It should just conform to the browser because of the way that some of the codes are embedded with it. The interesting thing about the way that code is constructed, though, is that it's not specific to the asset management system. So, for example, we start to get into the things that move on to next. We've got this idea of, in the blogging tool, we've got this journal entries. So we've got kind of this private journal where I'm writing. Well, if everything's a web service, then this is web service capable. Everything in it is web service capable. And so if I know, currently, if I know how to structure that token, we're going to actually build this out into the system going forward, but there will be a share button, basically, to generate these. So if I know this pattern, what I can do is we go into that course area again, and source, let's move this here, scale it up a little bit. I could actually change this to editorial, and let's look at what the item is, node 5. All right, so we're going to grab node 5, we're going to render it as a link, and that'll be the first one we do. So as a link, and then I believe it's stuff. I believe you can do text equals stuff kind of a thing. Okay, so what that did is it converted that kind of jargon into, oh, well, what you actually mean is this, and it lives at this address, right? So it created a direct link there. Something else we can do with these remixable tokens is let's not render it as a link, let's render it as its value, and the value that we actually want to render through is the title. Or sorry, not the text. In this case, it's field. So we're going to render the value of item 5 using field title. And so now we've got FSFSF, which it did can't even tell what it did. It did a web service query of this item and then pulled the title across. So if we view it as XML, you'll be a little more clear. So what it did, pulled it across with the title and put it in place. Let's do a different example. So we've got editorial journal entry. So we can then take this remixing token, we can go in here, we can say you're going to be type now. I'll make sure that I didn't, good old copy and paste. Make sure that I actually just put the word type instead of all the gobbledygook surrounding it. Save. And now it's queried that same resource, converted it into editorial journal entry. We've also got tokens that can be used inside the scope of this section. So let's say it's not in another system. Maybe it's something that's purely logistics. We've got this step 1, complete the topic readings for week starting, right? And so what you would normally do is something like this, right? And then that becomes a piece of information that needs to be updated and managed after the fact. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw in a token here. And we can pull them. I need a button to pull them from there, but let's browse the available tokens. So these are used for the title. And look at things for the section, and we can see currently that this would render itself as 824 to 830. So we're going to go back up to the content, the week starting, and then we've just got this token in place. Let's do a scrub on these. The styles do not detract. And now you see it's picked up our token, and then it highlights the token and says, hey, this is loaded because it's in scope of the section, and this is the actual token that's there. So you can use these in the text areas, you can use them in the title, you can use them in the outline of the content, and then what the power of this is you reference out all kinds of other places. Let's go into settings, section list. I only have one section at the moment. Edit my section here. Could switch to a different content outline as well in here easily. But so that value in here, that's the 824 to 830, we can now make stuff. We'll save it in there, so it's the stuff value. We're going to also then fake something here. We'll make another section. All right, so we've got this module 1 date. Let's see, stuff, just for the sake of doing it. And module 1 date here will be thingies. Okay. So we've got 2 sections that we've added into this space. These will be managed by CIS and come across, but what we can then do is, if we go into the content where that was modified, this topic 5 area, let's see, I need to refresh, it says thingies now. So the current section context is stuff. If I switch over to the master one, and then we go back to that page, you'll see it's 824 stuff instead of thingies. So you can use these tokens, hook them onto section-based logistics, and now we're effectively programming the content. We're keeping everything abstracted so that we can boil it down to modifying just a few values once the entire course is set in place. We can also start to get into doing these web services calls to other parts of ELMSLN. So, we're going to say, hey, give me the thing that's tagged as assignment 1 for the currently active section. And now that's pulled in place. There's no creating lots of, all this mass duplication of stuff. Once we put things in motion, then it should just work. We've been playing around with doing the actual assignment submission in line with the material. Currently we're faking it via iframes, but that it would be web services based as well, that I'm doing, for example, a studio submission, and I'm submitting something to the Open Studio. The Open Studio is another part of Holmes Learning Network. The idea is that all the submissions are public to the class, and so that students get feedback on work they're doing, that's in progress. So it's got some basic commenting, minor threading. Again, has some UX work that's been put into it, but needs a lot more. I could say mark this exemplary, so we're using Drupal flags, so mark this thing exemplary. Let's go back to the home page. Let's see, now this is highlighted in yellow. You can see at a glance that this has 6 comments on it. Open up the images and see my design iterations. So the idea is getting this feedback on your work from your peers. We could actually submit that in line with the material in the content. So the content sets us up as saying, hey, you're going to read about this, and here's the activity, and we're not going to send them somewhere. There's going to be the submit or work on it right now kind of thing. And when they submit it, it's actually going to send it behind the scenes over here. What that allows us to do instructionally is that it's not breaking the flow of the material. The course is this one outline, this one experience, everyone's doing everything in the lesson, but my context is not always, I'm not always just going linearly through material. Particularly if you're a student, you get to a point and you say, oh, here's the assignment. Well, I'm going to read the directions, and it says that I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I have to go watch this movie. And there's things that take you away from this normal content walkthrough that are different from a traditional classroom setting, where you have more control, quite honestly, over what the learner is doing and where they are. So they might come here, have gone through the other pages, and then say, all right, well, I'm going to submit this assignment. Now, when they come back here, right, I've left the site, where do I go? I don't have the, I was working on that assignment, shoot, I lost that link, where was it, right? So tell them, oh, well, you can submit and get to your things after the fact in the studio, right? So we go to the studio, and then we'll have the ad, or we'll have the slide out and say, my studio submissions. And so then it won't matter if they submitted it in line in the flow of instruction, or if they actually went to the place where that's going to end up. What that gives you is these two generally competing types of user experiences. We can do either one of them and support them very well. So we could go to this item, realize that it's associated with an assignment that's being referenced in page 25 of your section, and then give you a link to jump back to the section in context. We can then, as we're loading up that page, with a tokenized input, go, oh, well, you already submitted this, so I'm not going to give you a submission form here. Here's your assignment, or here's a link to your assignment. So we can start to use the web services capabilities to really kind of blur the lines of where things are in the name of a better user experience for the end user, as well as a system that can actually grow and evolve and add functionality and add radically different ways of behaving 2-3 years from now, because we're on the studio, right? Well, this is the studio is the connotation of what an art studio is for me, but also for the faculty. So we're going to make all kind of customizations to just their studio. And so the design of the system, stamping out all these different, Drupal sites that are working together to provide a course experience, then means that, okay, so yeah, we're probably going to have the content outline. That's going to be generally the same for everybody. We want the same overall usability, but we've got this really great idea for a private journaling activity. We don't want them to that not be possible. We don't want to say, oh, well, we have this tool that lets you submit stuff, but it's public, and why don't you just do it on paper? That's not acceptable in my mind. So discussions, all of these, we could have a discussion, for example, that is, very generic vanilla forums technology like every other LMS, or we can crack open the hood of Drupal, dive into the content types, and start really modifying, the connotation of these posts. What is a thread, right? What fields does a thread have? Well, we want to have a very media-centric discussion. Okay, well then let's throw some images in there, and then let's require them to submit those images. And we can do that in a vacuum from everything else. There might be courses running the forums distribution and running off of that with their vanilla forums, but we go and do this much more sophisticated forum system right next to it. This is what the architecture is allowing you to do. Experiment, change, grow. And so get out of the blogging one, get out of the studio one, we've got media, we covered that. Let's look at something I can't take credit for, but is really cool. And so this is the H5P content type, which is now in the media system. And so what this does is it gives you a lot of different options that are growing and becoming even more stable and more accessible, and HTML5, which is awesome, as well as being cross-system compatible. So you could actually produce stuff in ELMSLN that then you ingest into Moodle, for example, a learning activity, an exercise. So let's go and do an interactive video. And we're going to pick a YouTube clip at random here. Insert that YouTube clip. Add some interaction. So this is actually a work in progress video that my unit is working on. And so let's click through just briefly to some slides in it. All right, so let's say that we wanted to add something more engaging than just the video that's well shot. Maybe she's transitioning to a different part of the video. So let's add a bookmark here as a keyframe. Check this out. Right, and then we could maybe move a little further along. Glue comes in, all right. So then we've got glue, we hit play. And so she says, hey, you need to organize your material or else maybe things will get messed up and then you're wasting time because your process isn't as efficient as it could be. And so let's then stop and let's ask a question about that. About process. Right, so we could ask a question that's image-based. We can have images affiliated with it. We can say, you know what, pause this, so that if you don't pause it, then it's kind of more optional. That get little pop-up video types of things. And then what's the question? Well, the question is, where should you place your glue in the toolbox? And so the first one is always correct. So middle. We'll say it's correct. I believe I selected a checkbox-based one, so you got more than one correct answer. Outside the container. Okay, and then you can also give tips like, this is wrong. Feedback when it's chosen, but you were close. And so there's a lot of flexibility here. Whew, missed that one. You can get into some different behavior settings as to what buttons show up, whether in randomized order, adaptivity. I could really talk about this thing forever. And so let's take that process. We're going to make it really apparent. Throw it right there, right in front of the learner. And so then we can go and keep adding these. There's different types of things you can throw down. You could also just throw down, I think, like a text label. Put down like a more glue text label. This one we're not going to have pause, and this is not going to be displayed as an interactive button. I haven't used that yet. And so, glue is awesome. Okay, so we've got that. Drag the words into the content box. So we've got this really advanced content box thing. We didn't want that. Let's get rid of that. Right, so there's a ton of options up in here. Mark the piece of the word, click and drag to add text. I believe this is what I was looking for previously. Let's get rid of that, and so we can just throw the text down here. Shading. Careful not to get your hands dirty. And so we can have this show up for any length of time. We won't do 10 seconds, it's a bit excessive. Let's put this at like 43. Done. And so now you see shading pops up there, and someone could click it. Then there's a summary task, so you can have a summary at the end of this interactive video. You can also rewrite what all the buttons say for your needs. You can enable retrying, things like that. So let's see what we get. We hit save. So we've got media, so what? And now we've got this video that's layered on top of YouTube, so I can jump to the glue. I can jump back to checking this out, go back to the glue area. This is going to move forward. We're going to hit a point in a second here where we're going to stop the video. It's going to jump up a thing. There we go. So we got process. So pause, process. Outside the container. What was my hint? Oh, that's the wrong one. That's right. Let's not do that. Let's go with middle. Check. Oh, good, I got it right. Continue, video keeps playing. We can jump ahead to this text area that appears on the screen. You'll see that we won't stop the video. We'll just be emphasizing something. Pop this open shading. It will then pause the video to say, hey, be careful not to keep your hands dirty. Close, keeps going. This thing is pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie. So this will also then work with all of our, all the rest of the stuff we started. These techniques start stacking on each other as to what you can do, because you're then going to be able to embed that. You're going to be able to have it display in these outlines. I have to change one setting and it will show up as far as the embedding capabilities. So that's provided via entity iframe, and so we can go in and say the types here, interactive contents. Should have done this before the demo. Go back, and now we should be able to have that show up in lists. Okay, so we go to media so what, and now you'll see we get iframe embed codes that go directly to them, and then we could throw this into our content outline. Let's edit this page. Do source at the moment. I haven't done this, so I'm not really sure how large it will be. So I just put a link. So I need to probably use the entity iframe embed code, but you get the idea. We use the exact same thing as before. We can throw this in instead of the shortcode interpreter to call it up. And then this allows us, again, following the methodology of the system, this allows us to do some pretty radically advanced things and different things in that iframe window that then wouldn't be possible otherwise in this system area. So see, we've got a protocol accessing thing. We'll have to debug in the local Vagrant instance here. Forum. So that's pretty much it. We've got compliance as well, which, as I said, just stamps out and says, hey, I'm alive. But we've got a lot of other things in the roadmap. We've also got that system that should have built itself in the background. Let's see if it finished. So we've got math here. Transfer our math course in this area. Let's look at the services in use. And this is usually my way of telling if it built correctly. So the address is very small. If it ships back its cron key, that generally means that it was created successfully. So I should have a blank space for math. It might say access denied because of some things with Vagrant. But you can see we've also got some nice icons I didn't even mention for each of these. You can open these up and see some of them, probably all of them will open with access denied because I'm running locally. But it did produce all of these different spaces. All these different spaces for me. Yeah, it's the Vagrant with that bakery plugin. It's not happy, but it produced all these different Drupal sites automatically. So let's jump into those and get access. So I've got the Vagrant image open in the background. So the first thing we're going to do is DSA, which is short for Drush Site Alias. You'll see it found all these different sites that are in here. And so let's do Drush, makes people happier to see, courses.math, and then we'll do Yuli, which is short for user login link. So generated one. And then we can jump into math course and see that we have content outline automatically generated for us. We've got 15 example lessons. Drill down in here, you can see that the page navigation is set in motion. So there's quite a bit going on here. We're very excited about where it's heading. We've got some big announcements coming in the near future affiliated with the project as far as staffing and things and other people getting involved. So it's very, very fun times in the project. There's also a command line interface for Elms. I'm going into great detail of called Leafy, and Leafy can do all kind of fun things for you. So if you fire up Leafy, I could say, delete that one site that we brought up. I could, do more advanced things like, hey, let's repair, maybe you get a permissions warning on something. Well, let's just run the script that ensures that everything's secure. Okay, so now it is. These are the things possible with pattern-based design methodologies, is that you can just run a command against anyone that ever runs the system and know that it's secure. Again, this is open source. Someone says, well, it could be more secure if we do X. We get that committed, and now the script shows up in Leafy, and the script shows up in automation routines, and just makes everything more secure, again, down that same pattern. Let's see what sites Drush knows about. Let's get one on that. We could then actually upgrade the code base right through here. We could back the system up. Say, hey, go ahead and make a backup of yourself. There we go. That was tough. You can refresh the Drush plugins. Drush has access to things like Drush recipes. Go out of that. Whoop, Leafy. If I can type. I believe I was going to say the first thing it says here. So we've got Elms version 0.0.0 as we move towards a release. And we've got courses in CIS 3. There are no sections that are found in there based on my query. So the courses I have, Math, Sing 100, and the Graphic Nov course, so we got that correctly. And we'll just log out. So this kind of concludes the state of where things are. We're going to start to be getting into showing actual deployments of this. It is out there a few places. That'll be happening over the next few months. We'll be traveling to Drupal Camp New York, or New York NYC Camp in a few days, and then Capital Camp. Well, it used to be called Capital Camp, now it's Drupal GovCon to talk about Elms, and then after that, Drupal Camp Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh. So if you can't catch up with us at one of those, we'll see you around Drupal.org or anywhere online. I'm at BTO Pro. The project is at ELMSLN or ELMSLN.org. Thank you.